What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Sophisticated Man podcast. You probably recognize my guest. He's been on several different podcasts, several different episodes on the channel here, Mr. Manuel. What's up, man?
Hey man, doing fine. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here again. The third time
hmm
by now. You said people
I
may
think so.
recognize me, maybe they don't because I do have a lot of visual changes. But
Yeah,
still, yeah, glad to be here again.
absolutely, man. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think it's been three times. We've had a couple different podcasts at different points of our journey, at different points of our career. So I think it's cool to always just kind of reconnect. Manuel and I have very deep conversations on these podcasts. That's why I'm always like excited to get them on here. If people are very new to you or maybe don't recognize you or maybe not familiar with you, just maybe briefly kind of explain what you do and just kind of what's been going on with you lately.
All right, so I am an Austrian, excuse me, a little bit caught a cold. So I'm a 25-year-old Austrian men's coach and author. I've been in this niche for quite some time now, a little bit over 5 years. I do pretty much the same work as Tino does. We probably just attack things from different angles. My main focus is male empowerment, so anti feminism, you can say, then helping men to become more confident, more charismatic, and helping them to build a successful dating life, but not just dating or relationships. My focus is primarily on marriage because I do believe in traditional masculinity and traditional values.
Mm, absolutely. Where can people find you if they want to look more into your work?
You can find me on every social media channel under the name Holistic Manhood.
Awesome. And guys, I'll link all his stuff down below if you guys want to dig a little bit deeper. But basically, yeah, everything he just said, I align with in terms of value system, in terms of beliefs. We have very similar outlooks, and like he said, we typically attack it just from different angles. Like we're pretty much doing the same thing remotely. Like we have the same mission, just from different deliveries. I think of how we're doing it. Um, and that actually brought up a question as you were saying that with you mentioned like anti-feminism. I think that's a really funny place to start because I've seen so many videos, and I know you've seen a lot of videos where a lot of creators are like, you know what, the West is dead. There's no traditional women left. You got to go overseas to find a good woman. You can't find it here in America or on in Western countries. I'm curious. Obviously, you're living out in Europe, but I'm curious if like in your opinion perspective, just based on the guys you worked with from maybe out west, have you shared that same opinion, or what's your take on that? Like, there's no traditional women left in Western countries.
I strongly believe in that you attract what you are. And
Yeah.
first of all, I am a living testimonial that there are traditional women out there. I'm 25, I
hmm
am engaged to a traditional woman, and I'm soon married to her. So I do have my own proof, but I also do have the proof of my clients. They're
Yeah.
finding good traditional wives. I mean, you have
Yep.
to say that modern dating is screwed. Yes, a lot of modern women are
100%.
housewife material, definitely, but it's not
Yeah.
dead. There are still a lot of women out there who want to be traditional wives, and you will find them. I mean, you also have to say it's there are certain places where it's a lot harder, where I can understand that the red pill, for example, is so strong, in London and New York and also in Vienna, typically for big cities, very liberal, very degenerate. And this
hmm
is where it often originates, right? But what I found is when you go a little bit more outside of the city, things start to change very, very, very positively.
hmm This I can actually confirm that. Like any major city, typically very liberal, like you said, very feminist, I should say. They kind of promote that type of life, or not promote that life, but they have those kind of values. Like if you go downtown, you're probably going to see some kind of LGBTQT flag. You're probably going to see some like protesters everywhere. Like that's just kind of how major cities are run, at least here in America. I don't know how it is, elsewhere. But I agree. I think the further inland you go, and I've had this experience where I've met women that are like in the city and maybe I meet them out or something like that. They all have this very, not all, but a lot of them have this very, how do I put it? A huge wall. They have a very big wall up when it comes to meeting men. And I think they have a very negative association with men. I met this girl the other day. I went out, I think I just went out by myself to just enjoy. I didn't really drink, just went out just to enjoy myself. And I met this girl, and I remember I was telling her I was a men's coach, and she didn't have to say anything, but I could see it in her eyes. She gave me one of those like, whoa, like what's that? What's a men's coach? And I could tell immediately that she had some type of like past issue or past trauma with men, which I think typically that's why women go down the route of being a feminist, or just they get down that route of like hating men, or just like getting buying into that narrative, I think a lot more. Um what's your take on that? Do you think women usually go that route, the liberal route, the feminist route, because of experiences from men, or is it more kind of just how they were brought up?
It can be, definitely. Like if a woman has a bad experience with a man, that can leave its wounds, just like it can leave its wounds when a man has a bad experience with a woman. But I
Hmm.
always say that a woman is the result of her leadership. And
Yeah, that's
when
true.
you don't have the leadership of a virtuous man, if she's not following Christ, if she doesn't have a good male role model in the home, which is her father, well, then she's going to
Hmm.
follow the feminist establishment because there's no other options. She's going to go to
Hmm.
university, she's going to have that influence around her, and she's going to turn out to have at least some feminist tendencies, which are essentially man hating tendencies.
Hmm. A lot of the times, yeah. It I've met some women that say they're feminist, but then you start talking to them, and then you realize, oh, you're not actually like that's not feminism. That's actually like you believe in traditional values. So it's interesting how that label kind of gets just blanketed with everything. Because if you tell a woman, "Hey, you believe in feminism," they're gonna say, "Yeah, of course, I support women," but I don't think that's essentially what it's turned into these days. It's a little bit more than just supporting women. It's kind of like propping them up to take the place of a man, essentially. In my viewpoint, um, I was actually just having this conversation with my last guest. She's single. She's 27, I believe. She's a little bit younger than me, but single, living alone. She works a full time job and is starting a business with stuff that she's doing online. And we've had multiple different conversations around like um how that affects her, and how that affects her ability to be feminine, how that affects her relationships, especially to men, because she's always working, she's always stressed. So there's like a big problem, I think, with women that are super into their career, super into their workforce. Not that they shouldn't be, but it just, if you're only focused on that as a woman, then you're gonna be, it's easy to say, "Oh, I don't need a man because I can provide for myself," or "I don't need a man to buy me dinner, to buy me groceries. Like I got it myself." Which again is good, but you almost, you kind of erase that space in your life where a man could fill it. Because then we come in and we're like, well, what am I good for? Where's my value in this relationship? So it can be dangerous.
It has been done on purpose.
Oh yeah.
What should I say? It has been done on purpose. The state replaced the man, and that was the point of it.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, I've made that point a lot too. I tend to see it that way. I know a lot of people, I think, are starting to wake up to that reality. I think if you just look at anything in the mainstream media, you'll see signs of like, and I say this all the time on commercials or TV shows or any like pop culture movies or Netflix, any modern film, you typically see the man. Uh, Great example. I have a perfect example. I'm probably going to make like a whole series on this because it's so obvious. Um, so I watched this movie back in my childhood called The Incredibles. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's
I don't
basically
think so.
it's like a family superhero movie. It's a kids movie, but I remember back in the day that was like my childhood was watching this. There was it was a nuclear family, so it was mother and father, husband, wife. They had two kids, well, three kids. One was a baby, and they're all superheroes. And in the original movie, and this was made like back in 2008 or something like that, the father, they called him Mr. Incredible. He had like super strength, very masculine. He would take care of his family. He would go out and be, he would search out adventure because he was trying to find his purpose in life again. Because there's a whole story behind it, but basically, he represented a lot of traditional masculine values, at least from what I saw. Fast forward to now, I think it was like 2019 or 2020 when they came out with the sequel. So the sequel, and this is hilarious because it's so obvious. They literally delegated this figure to a stay-at-home dad, and I'm not even bullshitting. He literally, there was the whole movie was premised around his wife going out, being on a mission, doing her thing, and he as the father was at home taking care of the kids, washing dishes, studying with them. And it's so funny because like I'm watching this and I'm like, he's a stay-at-home dad and he's a superhero. I was like, what in the world is going on here? And it was a Disney movie, obviously. So it's just so wild to me that this, if you really look at it and pay attention, you'll notice every man who's in that role of fatherhood, or maybe he's like a businessman, kind of gets delegated to like the dancing monkey or like some clown.
It has never been more obvious than in today's time. There has
Mm-hmm.
always been, like, when you think back, all the comedies have always
Yeah.
like the stereotype of the fat, clumsy dead, right? But with
Mm-hmm.
like things like Disney nowadays, it's so obvious that there is an agenda
Yeah.
behind it. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
with the Incredible, or what the new series is called. And I'm not into movies or anything. Like, I'm bad with
Mm-hmm.
names, but there was something from the Marvels, I believe, where they also
Mm-hmm.
portrayed a woman as the superhero. I'm not sure. Is it Marvels?
Yeah.
Is it?
The Marvels. Yeah.
I think you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean, right? There was something
Mm-hmm.
like they did, portraying the woman as the savior from the world. Then you also have like
Yeah.
the Transformer. Like, that's crazy, where they teach children like the gender shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely crazy today.
Yeah. It's nuts, man. I know what you mean too. I think it was the Marvels. I think it's called the Marvels. Is where I think her name is Miss Marvel. She's like the one of the head of the whole. I'm not too familiar with the Avenger movies, but she's basically like the one that saves the world, like you said. Like she's kind of like the lead character, and it's funny because again, you go back to like 2008, 2007 when these movies were starting, it was always the man who was taking center stage. It was Iron Man, Spider-Man, Captain America, like these heavily intelligent, heavily traditional men were essentially taking center stage. And yeah, you just notice a shift from like that time frame to now. It's heavy. Okay, you have to have a woman in the lead. You have to have some type of LGBTQ member as a lead character. You have to weave it into the story somehow. It's like it's so forced and it's so rammed down your throats. It's like this isn't genuine, and people are starting to realize that.
Absolutely. You can tell that by the revenue. Like, every time they bring out
Mm-hmm.
something like that, it's a complete flop. It completely fails.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like the not to get too deep into this rabbit hole, but the whole Bud Light scandal that happened like I think last year or maybe earlier, yeah, earlier 2023 with I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's Bud Light had this campaign where they basically had this trans person as the spokesperson of Bud Light. I don't know if you remember that story.
Not at all.
Basically they had this trans character as she was in all the commercials, or he, she, whatever. She was in all the commercials, and everybody was like outraged. Like literally everybody was outraged because it was like, why? What is the benefit of having a trans person represent a beer company? Do trans people drink more beer than the average person? Like, are you marketing towards trans people? It was so weird. And what ended up happening to Bud Light, dude, they lost millions and millions of dollars. Like they're still recovering to this day because of that entire campaign. But it's true. Like if you do stuff like that and you're clearly pandering or grifting to an audience, people are not going to buy into that because they're quite frankly sick of the wokeness.
100%. You can really see that there's slowly a resisting building up, like more and more
Mm-hmm.
people. And like just a little personal story from recently, I was talking to a few colleagues of mine, and I was shocked about their stances on those topics, because you think, okay, we live in
Mm.
extremely liberal times, and I'm
Yeah.
somebody, I discuss my opinions very openly. When somebody asks me, I'm like, yeah, that's how I think it is. And if they don't like it, well,
Mm-hmm.
that's their problem. And I was usually, I get a lot of pushback when I'm saying certain things, but they were like, yeah, yeah, it makes sense, we agree. And I was like, wait a minute, do you agree?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've noticed that too, kind of where people are starting to become a little bit more traditional in a sense. Just from the just from like a 1,000 foot view, like they might not be like fully believing every value that aligns with being traditional conservative, but generally I think you're finding people are shifting that way. um, because of that reason. I think it's because we've been super progressive and super liberal for such a long time now that people are looking for an alternative, or people are looking like what else is new, especially relationships. Because if you look at any like progressive liberal relationship where either the woman's in charge, or they have an open relationship and they're very polygamous, or they're, you know, any form of like new age, new wave type of thing, it typically doesn't work, right? Like it's not going over well. Like if you look at, let's take the Adam 22 situation for example, where I know I know you know about that just based on the laugh, but he literally is like letting guys openly have sex with his wife, and they're married, like they're actually married. And it's literally it could be a publicity stunt, it could be genuine, I'm not sure, but the way that they push it and promote it, it's so strange. It's one of the weirdest relationships I've ever seen in terms of a dynamic. And guys are like, dude, they're losing respect for him because they realize like, bro, how are you letting somebody else just pound your wife out? It's just it's so weird. And I think people are realizing, yeah, this lifestyle is not for me.
Absolutely. And this is where it essentially ends. It
Mm-hmm.
always ends in stuff like that.
Yep.
By the way, something that I want to add, do you know where I do believe that this change is coming from? Maybe I don't know how things are in the States exactly, but I can believe, like I can imagine that they are very similar, like in Vienna and Europe. You
Mm-hmm.
notice that, for example, ever since COVID and all that stuff, the inflation is extremely high. And what
Yeah.
you notice is that people, even to just live a normal life, have to start working two jobs. At least that's how it is in
Yeah.
Vienna. Like the
Mm-hmm.
income is so bad and the costs of living are so high that some people have
Mm-hmm.
to work a regular job and then 20 more hours for something
Mm-hmm.
to live essentially paycheck to paycheck. And that includes women as well. And now you have that
Yeah.
extreme stress on women. And men are more better at handling that amount of stress. I mean, we like I work 80 hours per week every week, and that's normal for me. But when you push
Mm-hmm.
that onto the average woman, she is going to feel like drowned in that. She's going to feel so
Yep.
much stress, and then she's experiencing that she really doesn't actually want that. And then she starts imagining like, oh wow, wouldn't it be so nice if I had a man who could take care of those things?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. No, that's exactly how it is here. Like the inflation's so high, so like the jobs, most people typically. aren't like there's jobs available, but for some reason there's not a lot of people that are willing to work or just get a job in general. So it's almost incentivized to be unemployed because you get checks from the government and then you get taken care of from the government instead of actually like trying to increase your income because nobody really nobody really wants to do that, it seems, at least from what I've noticed. Like a lot of people are happy to kind of have like their hand out. um but yeah, it literally, it's a cycle. So like the inflation goes up, cost of living is super high still, even here like in PA. It's not as bad as some other parts of the country, but it's still up there. And yeah, you the average income, so looking at statistics, the average income of a single man in the US right now is like 40K per year. And that's the average, right? So like, if you make that average, the average home that you can buy in America is about 400K. So being a single man living on his own, to own a home by yourself is next to impossible. And same for women too. If you're single and you're working a full time job, you're gonna at least need two jobs or a man, a boyfriend, and another job to try and support a house. So it's crazy. And we ended up talking about this on my previous podcast too, about a man being the provider and being able to afford the bills and pay for pay for everything like that, essentially. And I know some people get so triggered by that, and I don't understand why. um because I don't know if guys associate that with like, oh well, girl's a gold digger, she just wants you for your money, blah blah blah. And I think anybody that says that just doesn't understand like the psychology behind women and men. It's like women are literally designed to receive or essentially extract the resources that men have. Like if we have home, shelter, food, water, like, resources, we're going to give that to our woman. So women, like, they inherently want this because that's how they can, like, how they can actually raise an offspring in proper conditions. So it's not weird that women want this. It's just a normal, natural thing. Um, so I probably know your stance on this, but what's your opinion on like the man having to be the provider to support the woman and obviously support himself? Um, what's your take on that in terms of a guy paying for everything, or do you have different thoughts on that?
For me, it's a non-negotiable. A man
Yeah.
is just a provider, and that's how it is. And you
Mm-hmm.
will see, like everybody for himself, he can try that. If you get the
Mm-hmm.
chance to be in a relationship prematurely, sometimes it happens. It happened for myself. And you will see, the
Mm-hmm.
more you take on your responsibilities as a man, the more you provide, the more you get into that direction of being able to fully provide, the more you work on yourself physically so you look like a protector, and the more you just lead in a masculine way. That means not complaining, doing hard things,
Yeah.
just doing what a
Yep.
man has to do without complaining. Like, your relationship is
Mm-hmm.
going to get to the next level. She's going to look
Mm-hmm.
at you with different eyes. She's going to respect you. Like, a lot of modern guys do deal with disrespect, even if it's just
Mm-hmm.
subtle. Well, guess why? Because you're not doing your job. That is her telling you, like, dude, look, you're failing as a man. And you
Mm-hmm.
can see this in, like, the average relationship is a complete disaster.
Mm-hmm.
The man is typically a baiter cuck. Sorry to put it that way, but that's the truth. And the woman is just nagging, disrespecting. She's a what is it called in English? I believe a quarrelsome wife.
Yeah.
And there is a
Yeah.
nice Bible verse that I always like to use. It's better to live in the desert land than to live with a quarrelsome wife. And that
Mm-hmm.
is what some guys don't understand. If you do your things as a man and allow her to do the feminine part of it, which is housekeeping, which is taking care of your children, your marriage or relationship is going to be so much better.
Mm-hmm. So much better. And I think you'll notice that too, not even in just average relationships, but you look at celebrity relationships. guys that have status, that have all the money in the world, they have all the finances, still in those relationships, you'll see like guys get disrespected or finessed or their woman doesn't follow their lead. And guys wonder like what's going on here? He has money, he has status, he has looks, but there's still something that's missing that's allowing their relationship to just like the girl to disrespect them. Because I think um being a provider is so much more than just financial. Like it is financial, yes, you should provide financially, but I think as well leadership, obviously, emotional maturity, understanding how to lead her in terms of like direction, vision, where you guys are going as a couple, where you're going as a man. Um Setting the agenda, setting the plan, like here's what I'm aiming towards for our family to do, and like this is what we should be doing, this is what I'm going to be doing. Just so much more than just, hey, here's my wallet and good luck. It's so much deeper than just financial provision.
And I want to add what a lot of guys get confused with as well is that they somehow can self improve their way to it. Like they believe, okay, if I have that
Yeah.
amount of status, I will be good
Mm-hmm.
with women, she will respect me. Or if I have that amount of money and I'm a good
Yep.
provider, she's going to respect me and da 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 da, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work like that. So what I'm really going hard on at the moment is really trying to get guys to understand that female attraction and female respect has nothing to do with socioeconomic status, has nothing to do with finances. Because
Mm-hmm.
what I learned when I got into this niche, oh, just improve yourself, just get better, just build more muscles, just make more money. It doesn't work like that. Having
Mm-hmm.
a solid relationship can come at any socioeconomic status level, can come at
Yep.
any financial level. I mean, obviously, you should be so mature and tell yourself, okay, maybe if I'm not in the position financially to at least take her on some dates, to at least have a little bit of a good time, well, maybe then you shouldn't date
Mm-hmm.
at all. But you know, if you
Yeah.
get, again, if you get, and I say it's prematurely because for me it is prematurely, if you're not able to fully provide and you get into a relationship that's prematurely, sometimes it
Mm-hmm.
happens. And I'm not the guy who says no, you can't do that, because again,
Mm-hmm.
I've been in, like, I'm 2 years into my relationship now, and you have at least, you need at least some level of finances to be able
Yeah.
to, do something with her. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
apart from that, you just start building from there on. And
Yep.
guys think, okay, they have to earn this amount of money to be good with women, or this amount. It doesn't make sense, and it has nothing to
Mm-hmm.
do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a massive cope that guys think that they need six figures or they need to be a multimillionaire to get women. Like there's people that I know that have not they're not millionaires, I'll put it this way. They're not millionaires, they don't have six figures, and they do very well with women because they know how to communicate. They know how to speak to a woman's emotions and to make her feel safe enough to feel feminine so she could be this giddy, bubbly person around him. And I see it every time with my own eyes. And it wasn't until I learned that myself, I was like, oh, wow, I don't need to be freaking like celebrity status person in order to attract women. It just kind of changed everything for me. Like I was like, oh, damn, I can actually be myself. I can be authentic. I just need to be a better version of myself. I need to lead myself and know where I'm going, have direction and conviction in my life. And then women they're gonna be attracted to that. So yeah, to your point, like you can have all the money and status in the world, but if you're not communicating properly to a woman, you don't know how to speak to her, you don't know how to lead her, you don't know how to engage her emotions, none of that matters. You're not going to keep her around because she's not going to feel like you're a safe space.
Definitely.
And I wanted to jump off what you said. What did you say just now? You said a baseline level, yeah, a baseline level of finances. Like you don't really need like you can. like I said earlier, the average income of a man in the US is 40K a year. Now, if you make a little bit more than that, or like 40K or more than that, you're still above the average technically. Like, as sexy as it is to say you're a seven-figure earner, you're a millionaire, you don't need to be. It isn't a complete necessity. Now, should you strive to make more finances and be abundant? Yes, of course. I'm never going to say you shouldn't. But is it completely necessary to find a wife or a long term girlfriend? No. You don't need to be a millionaire. You just need to have enough money to take her out on some dates, maybe travel somewhere together, and like give her an experience. And it doesn't have to be like an extravagant, luxurious experience. It could just be something that she'll remember because she's spending time with you and you guys are having fun. Um, I've always said that if you don't have enough money or you're worried about spending money on a coffee to go take her out to do like lunch or something, you probably shouldn't be dating in the first place because you don't have enough money. So like get a job first, get that increased, and then worry about going on dates because if you're doing that consistently, it's going to add up. Like if you're seeing her, especially every week, and you guys are going to movies and dinners and this and that, it's going to start to add up after a while. And you don't want to have to worry about, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to take her out this weekend. Trust me, she's not going to like that if you're worried about, oh, I don't know if I can take you on a date. It's just going to make her feel uncomfortable.
And on the other hand, a lot of guys overestimate how much they need.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been talking to a few people and I've been consuming a lot of content because it starts to be relevant for me, being the full provider. It's
Mm-hmm.
not gonna take longer than a year until this is my full responsibility. So I start, researching a little bit. Okay, how much money do I need? And I know
Right.
from people in the US that the husband is earning 47K, and that's enough. But there's the
Mm-hmm.
point. You have to ask yourself, okay, how am I willing to live? Do I
Right.
need the highest level of luxury? Does she need a
Mm-hmm.
new Gucci bag every week? Do I need to drive a Bentley or an Aston Martin? Or am I okay with driving a Ford? It's about priorities. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced if both
Right.
really want to do it, you can make it with so little money that most people will be surprised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good point, and I'm glad you said that because it is about living in your means. Like if you want to live the lifestyle where you have a relatively chill life, maybe you live out in the countryside, maybe there's not a lot of expenses that you guys have, you could probably manage off of six figures or maybe a little bit less than that. Like you don't really need that much. But yeah, if you want to be like flying commercial or not commercial, but flying first class all the time, going to different countries, flying around, traveling, going to the extravagant restaurants, and that kind of lifestyle. Well, you're going to probably have to make a little bit more. So it all depends on your vision. That's why I think it's so important for men up front to know what kind of life do I want to live? Like, what is my ideal? Do I want to live that kind of life or do I want to live more secluded and in the country? And you can always have both. Like, you could test a bit of both, but I think it's so important for men to know this up front. So when they do get into a relationship, they can tell their woman, "Hey, this is what I'm building towards. Is that cool for like are you on board for that? Or like what do you want?" And then communicate. Because if she's and this comes back to her, but if she's a good woman and if she really likes you and wants to be a part of your journey, she will actually like she'll go along with it. She'll, oh yeah, I love that. I want to travel. I want to like go to the beach and eat nice food. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to have to make as the man, I have to calculate, be analytical in my mind, how much money do I need to make so she could be feminine and she doesn't have to worry about the expenses and I'll take care of it. Okay, maybe a couple, you know, 200, 300, 400K, whatever that is. And then you just have to do the math and honestly put in the work. But I think that's it. It comes back on the guy to know, well, this is the life I want. And this is the kind of relationship dynamic I want. And then you just have to communicate that.
I mean, that's something I hope that everybody has figured out before he starts dating. I mean, you already
I
kind of
hope so.
told us that it's not the case, but you really should have
Mm-hmm.
an idea of what you want out of life and the type of woman that you want. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like shocking that sometimes you do notice that guys actually don't have an idea. They say,
No.
"Okay, I want to start dating." And then you ask them, well, what type of women do you want? How does your life gonna
Mm-hmm.
look like in 10 years? Hmm,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Well, it's time to think about it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's your take on? Because I've heard a lot of creators talk about this with like guys learning through experience and going out there. Because that's I would agree with that to an extent. Like you do need to know what you like and what kind of girls you don't connect with. Um, but at the same time, you don't want to spend too much time with the wrong person because then you're wasting your time, you're wasting their time. What's like a healthy balance in your opinion of doing that? Like getting experience, but also not like putting too much investment into someone that clearly isn't right for you. And knowing, hey, I'm just not gonna entertain this.
You know, we do have to clarify here because experience is not always experience. The experience that the Red Pill
Mm,
sells you is, yeah, go out there, bang a lot of chicks, be good and bad because that's what women want. But that's not what experience necessarily means.
mm-hmm.
When I talk about experience, go out there, get experience, I mean that you go out there and date with intentions. So you
Right.
go out there because you actually know what you want and you're going to go for whatever you want to. And the experience comes with that. It's like
Mm-hmm.
driving a car. When you're driving a car, you get more experience as you drive with every year. So the
Mm-hmm.
more women you date because you're looking for a compatible fit, the more
Mm-hmm.
experience that you get. But there's no
Mm-hmm.
reason to go out there without a purpose. Just grab a few drinks, pick up a few girls, and that's it. So experience comes as you date with intentions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have the same stance as well. Like you can gain experience by just going on dates, knowing how to lead, getting a girl's phone number, knowing how to ask her out on a date, like knowing how to set everything up, rather than just going out and hooking up with the first person that you see. Because most likely the only reason that you're doing that is because either you're drunk or she's drunk, and or you're both drunk, and something happens, and then you wake up the next day like, wow, I don't even remember what went down, and it's like, how is that an experience? You don't even remember it, and then and then you think to yourself, well, then I'm just going to keep doing that. You're not actually gaining any skills. You're kind of just you're literally just learning how to like get drunk and then get lucky. That's basically it. There's no type of like conversation skills, communication skills that are involved in that. It's very easy to do that. But it's hard to like maybe you see a woman who's eating a meal by herself and she's reading a book, and you as the man walk up to her and say, "Hey, look, I don't want to interrupt you. You look very pretty. I wanted to say hello. What's your name?" That's hard to do. That takes skill. And if you can get a girl's attention and know how to continue to see her again from that, that's actually experience. That is real experience because you're mindful of what's happening. You're not just like blacked out drunk and you can't function properly.
I'm so glad that you said that. I'm so glad that you said it doesn't take a lot of skill essentially to
No,
hook up with women because
it doesn't.
that's what's being sold. It's sold,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you have to be a player to hook up with women. No. Like hooking up with women is the easiest thing to learn. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was completely socially awkward. I wasn't able to talk to women and I could pull women within 3 months. Like short term dating and hooking up is so easy. It's a
Mm-hmm.
few things that you have to learn and you're good to go. But I
Mm-hmm.
dare you try having a solid relationship or marriage. Try staying in a relationship or marriage for over 10 years. Like that's the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Pulling
Mm-hmm.
women by with having game and essentially wearing a facade, saying the things you remember, like that's easy. But when it comes
Mm-hmm.
like when you're living with her, when you can't no longer hide, when your shit arises that you have suppressed for years, then it's gonna get interesting.
Yep. I agree. And most guys are not ready for that type of confrontation, because what you just said, like you're gonna have things come up. I don't, again, one of those things that is not talked about in this space. Like we talk about the pickup side of things, how to get a girl attracted, how to get her attention, which is important. Like you need to understand how to initiate, how to start, but how to maintain is a whole different skill set. And one of the things that I learned when I got into my first relationship was, wow, I didn't realize that there were things that I was not clear on myself. Like your woman's going to reflect things in you that you're not aware of. Like she might be saying something or doing something that's going to trigger you, and it's your job to be aware, to say, wow, why am I reacting this way? Or why am I thinking this way because she said that? So she's going to bring stuff out of you. And the same thing for her. You're going to bring stuff out of her. So a conscious, mature person will take the time and be like, what am I learning from this experience? What am I getting from this conversation? How is this going to benefit me? Because it's affecting my emotions in some way. And you have to understand why. But most people are not willing to go through that because they think a relationship is like this la la land fairy dust where everything's perfect and there's never confrontation, there's never fights, there's never stress of any kind. You guys are together and it's happy and there's rainbows every day. That's not reality. Like relationships are work. It takes work. And that's why just most people don't get into them, because it requires effort.
Absolutely. I always say that women are your oracle. So basically, the same what you
Yeah.
said. They
Mm-hmm.
reflect you. They are your mirror because they will
Yep.
bring up so much. Like you can go solo for 5 years and think, okay, I'm good. I worked a lot
Mm-hmm.
on myself, and then you get into a relationship, and you're well,
Yep.
there was something.
Yep.
And I can speak from
Yep.
my own experience. Like I'm 2 years into mine now, almost 2 years, and there's still things where I'm like, hey, wait a minute, that's new,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe
Yep.
not new, but I'm aware of it now. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, she's doing a certain thing, and it's causing an emotional reaction in myself. And you know what? A guy who's unaware would like lash out and then justify and
Mm-hmm.
rationalize. And I'm glad that I have that awareness, and I'm like, wait a minute, now something is steering up. Let's take a step
Mm-hmm.
back and analyze.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's where the logical, rational part of being a man comes in, because then we think, well, okay, I'm feeling something. I'm getting some kind of reaction. She's making me feel angry, or maybe she's making me feel uh, some kind of emotion, some strong emotion. It's in your responsibility as a man to say, well, what's going on here? Let me just think. Let me get through this. Let me feel it. Let me actually experience this and learn. Because if you don't, well, like you said, most guys will typically like fight their girlfriends, not physically, but verbally, they'll fight them. They'll maybe just try to make them jealous. That's one of the most immature things, is they'll try to make them jealous from from another person, or they'll leave. They'll just leave their relationship and just they'll move on to someone else. And then the same pattern keeps happening, and they keep getting in the same fights, and they're like, "Well, there's no good women left, or there's no good men left." It's like, well, what's the common denominator there? It's you. Like you're dating every one of these people. So I just think that it's such an uncomfortable place to be. But I think that's the issue, is people are not um, good. They're not comfortable being uncomfortable. They want everything to be easy and mellow and just very 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 go with the flow. There's not a lot of friction. And that's just not reality.
Absolutely. And it's extremely hard. Like relationships, the repairing process when things happen, when conflicts happens, especially in our modern times where everybody's like, oh,
Hmm.
well, okay, let's just go on Tinder or on Bumble or whatever those apps are
Yeah.
called. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the temptations are so high, and it takes so much effort and sacrifice. Most people don't even realize this. Like,
Nope.
relationships are really, really hard work. And it's so much easier
Mm-hmm.
just to say, okay, fuck it. Well, she wasn't the one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's another thing that I have very strong opinions about when it comes to the whole idea of soulmates and everything like that. I think, do I believe that there's people that you'll meet that are connecting with like a deeper version of you, like your soul, your emotional, mental level? Yeah, you're gonna find people that are gonna connect with you very deeply. I just think that there's multiple people like that. Like there's like this idea of one person who comes into your life and is just gonna like blow your world away. Yes, like you're gonna find someone like that, but I think you can also find there's gonna be multiple people like that for you at different levels of your life and different parts of your journey. It's not just one person is like the end all be all. That's your only person that you'll ever be good with. I think there's a lot of people. I mean, there's 8 billion people in the world. To say that there's one and one only that you'll ever like be in a good relationship with, I think that's kind of like where the Disney fairy tale stuff comes in, like the one itis, right? Because there is so many. You just have to be abundant as a man and realize that yes, she's incredible. Even if it doesn't work out, though, let's worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. You have to understand that you'll be okay, and you're not gonna like just deteriorate as a guy and you'll never find somebody else and like the world's ending. You're going to find someone else, especially if you're a guy that knows his value and you're a guy that's done the work on himself. You'll find someone else and it'll probably be a good connection too.
Absolutely. And you must say, if you're a man who believes in that, you're essentially cursing yourself. You're
Mm-hmm.
essentially cursing yourself and determining a bad fate. You're like, oh,
Right.
I can only find one person. Why
Mm-hmm.
would you do that? It just doesn't make sense. And what guys have to understand is that there are so many good women out there. Like, you always hear men cry about how there are no good women left, but we talked about this at the beginning. There are actually a lot of good women, but you
Mm-hmm.
just have to be able, first of all, to have proper discernment, to actually take your
Yep.
time vetting, and to lead her correctly. Like, that is what guys don't understand. A woman
Mm-hmm.
will be the result of your leadership. It's not like you're gonna meet that perfect woman who's the perfect feminine wife. It's not gonna be like that. Like, you create the
Mm-hmm.
woman that you want. And if you find a woman that is willing to follow your leads, you already won, because she's gonna turn out how you want her to turn out, to some extent, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's the part that I don't think a lot of people realize is yeah, like I've talked about this too. You're not gonna find someone who's perfect from head to toe, who meets all of your criteria and is gonna be like an incredible relationship for you. You have to make that into what you want. Like, yeah, she might come with a lot of qualities that you look for. She might be feminine, she might be more traditional, she might be into fitness, etc. That's great. That's what's gonna draw you in, but there's still work to be done and there's still you guys are going to connect, and if she likes you and she's following your lead and she trusts you, she respects you, a lot of the things that you do as a man she's going to start doing herself. Like if you're a guy that's organized, let's say, and you wake up in the morning all the time, go to the gym, do your thing, like you're very structured in your day, she's gonna pick up on those patterns. Say, huh, well, my boyfriend always gets up at a good time, and he's ambitious, and he's on time. He manages his time well. She'll pick up on that, and she'll probably do the same thing in her life because she sees you doing it. Same thing goes the opposite way. If you're a dude that like gets lazy, and I know you talk about this a lot too, where guys like become more feminine in a relationship because they get comfortable and they maybe stop going to the gym, they stop working out, they stop working on their purpose, they stop um just being ambitious. They just kind of get lazy. Well, their girl starts to notice that. And then she's like, well, I need to be the one to step up here and lead this. So she becomes more masculine as you become more feminine. So if you want to just maintain that healthy dynamic, just be the guy that goes first and like just go do the things you have to do. Keep your responsibilities because that's going to make her feminine. And yeah, man, if she respects you, that's really all it takes because there is no true love and union without respect. Like you have to have that first.
Just a moment before we continue. Can you still hear me
Hmm.
because we're having internet issues?
Yeah, I can hear you. I've noticed that it like sometimes it'll say connection issues, but I can hear you still.
Okay. I'm having a little bit of issues. Can you speak
Mm.
again?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, now it works. Okay, okay.
Okay.
So I hope I picked everything up. I do believe I did.
Hmm.
So essentially, what you said was that she's basically going to mirror you. Like when you're ambitious, it is positively influencing her.
Hmm.
And when you start slacking, she's like, oh, wait a minute. And I'm not sure, I didn't hear it because it was lagging. Did you say that she's going to lose attraction because of that?
Hmm. Yeah, I pretty much said that like yeah, if you're not being masculine, if you're not showing the tools that got her attracted in the first. All right.
Now we're back. It was a little bit too much, I feel like. Now it works again.
Yeah, I think it yeah, you can hear me now, right?
Now it works again. Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it just booted me for a second there. Um I think you were asking me if that loses attraction on the woman's part. Yeah, it does. Because I think you end up becoming too feminine where she has to be in her masculine and that's not where most women want to be. They don't want to be the leader in that relationship.
Definitely. And if you put her in that position, it's pretty much already the end of the relationship because then
Right.
you're putting that burden of performance that you
Mhm.
are usually bearing or supposed to bear. Now you're putting that on her shoulders. Now you are expecting her to perform. Now you are expecting her to do what a man has to do actually.
Mhm. Yeah, and again it ties back into what we were saying earlier about like this the culture and the way that things have become. Like if you're a man that is typically left leaning, and not to make this super political, but if you're a guy that's generally more liberal and more progressive, you some guy I've heard some guys say, well, that's okay, right? Like I'd let my girl, 50-50 split, like she can take charge and handle some of the stuff. And it's like, oh man, it literally blows my mind that they think that's what they want. They think that that's okay, but then it happens, and they're like, "Wait a minute, I don't like this. I don't want this at all." And it's usually those kind of men that are more feminine. They don't typically attract women that are like conventionally attractive or feminine in any way. They typically have like manlier looking, manlier performing women, um, which not to make it political, but generally speaking, if you do lean a little bit left, that's typically what guys would say.
Could you please repeat the last part? We had a lag again. The
Hmm.
connection doesn't seem to be too stable.
Yeah, yeah, it's been bugging out for the last few minutes. I basically just said like, yeah, typically if you do lean a little bit left, if you go a little bit liberal, not to make it too political, but that generally is what some guys will value. That's what they believe in. Is, well, the girl can take charge. She could be 50-50 with me. That's generally what guys will think.
I mean, the problem with that is, first of all, I want to add that ambition is one of the most attractive traits, if not the most attractive trait. Like,
Right.
you can ask any woman, if you're in a relationship, go ask your girlfriend, go ask your wife, what is it that you
Mm-hmm.
find so attractive about me? What is the number one trait that you find
Yeah.
attractive about me? And you
Mm-hmm.
will most of the time hear that it's the ambition, because
Yep.
like you can also Google this in the statistics. That's one of the most attractive traits. And when you don't
Mm-hmm.
embody this, well, obviously, first of all, she's going to lose attraction if you're in a relationship, or you're drastically reducing the dating pool of good women that you have available. And
Yep.
on the other hand, because we were talking about reversing the gender roles, I do genuinely believe that a woman isn't gonna stay with such a man. I genuinely
Mm-hmm.
don't believe it. I genuinely don't believe
Mm-hmm.
that if, for example, if you're a stay-at-home husband, I don't believe that she's gonna stay with you. I do believe that she will find a man who's more masculine than you and then leave you for him. Maybe she'll let you do the chores a little bit and hook up with him and have her fun, but she's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not gonna be loyal.
No. No. That's my belief as well. Is a guy that takes the role of more of a feminine role, women are not gonna sign up for that. Like, even if she is like super, I've seen this, women that are falling into like a lot of the feminist narratives where they think, oh, Miss Independent, she makes her own money, boss babe. Even those women want a guy to be a man still. They don't want to be the man. They want a man to be with. So even that, even girls that are into that whole idea of being the independent woman, they still want men to be uh to help them feel feminine, to help them feel like a woman. So it's crazy, man, that girls will say that, and they'll say, because it's popular and it's politically correct to say that women can do this and make their own money and be independent and all that kind of stuff. Again, which isn't, on in a vacuum, it's not a bad thing, but when it diminishes your ability to find quality relationships, when it disrupts the nuclear family, when it um, inflates your level of importance over men, it can be an issue if you get too deep into it. So yeah, like, it's, most women are not going to sign up for a guy that they know that they can overpower. They just won't.
Absolutely. And I must say that those women, I do believe, just have to be re-educated, because, like we said, you don't really have a different option when you're a woman in our modern day. What happens
Mm-hmm.
with you? You go to school, you visit public school, you get prepared for work, you start working a job. Maybe you go to university, which is even worse with the feminist establishments, with the propaganda and that. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a high chance that you will turn out that way simply because that's all you learned. Because
Yeah,
the vast majority of us doesn't come from a traditional household. The vast majority of us hasn't been
it's
raised
true.
traditionally. Me
Mm-hmm.
neither. And so are the women out there who just do what they know to do. They just do what they learned.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your responsibility then as a man to, okay, maybe there is a woman with a little bit of a boss babe attitude, but you see, okay, she's kind of receptive. Just talk to her and
Mm-hmm.
show her the way a little bit. And you will see
Yep.
quickly she will start to follow, because a woman doesn't want that. And when you
Mm-hmm.
actually show her that you're capable of doing what you have to do, she will start following you. Because again, a woman, she may say that. Yes, women say a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things, but what do you say? Don't listen to her words, watch her
Mm-hmm.
actions. She may say, "Yeah, I'm a
Exactly.
boss babe, independent, and that." And the moment the super alpha guy comes by and says, "Hey, girl, come," let's go on a date, she's like feeling small and feminine again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 100%. If you ask those women too what they want, like, hey, do you want a guy that makes more money than you? Yeah. Do you want a guy that's stronger than you? Yeah. Do you want a guy that's taller than you? Yeah. Oh, okay. So you want a guy that's masculine and who's more uh ambitious than you, which is typically what they still want. And I I have a lot of empathy towards women that are in that situation, and not a lot of guys will show them empathy, but I do. I have empathy because it's not necessarily what they really want. It's what they've been sold, like you said. It's the hand that they were dealt. Yeah, be powerful, be independent, be a boss babe. It seems really great. It sounds good on paper, but when you actually live that and you do it and you see like what the results of doing that cause, you realize that's not really what you want. Like that's not truly what is going to make you feel fulfilled in life. Now, for some women, maybe it does. Maybe a very small percentage of women it does. But for the majority that want children, that want a family, that want a good relationship with a man, that's not what they actually want. And like you said, if you really can find a woman, maybe she does think that way. Maybe she does, hey, I want to make my own money. I'm independent. Talk to her first. Don't just judge off of what she says. Like talk to her. And if you notice there's potential, like you could tell she's like she wants to be feminine, she wants to be receptive, but there is some resistance. I wouldn't say, yeah, like just dude, skip her, bro. Don't even worry about her. Modern women are terrible. I wouldn't even say that. I would say just get to know her. And if you see that there's a potential possibility that you guys get along and like there's good values there, there's just a slight difference, you can always lead her out of that. Because like we've established, like if you're really solid in your frame and you're really like you're providing and you're basically doing your part as a man. Um, I think a lot of times women will abandon that old belief system of being independent and being a boss babe, and they'll sacrifice that for being with a guy that they think is essentially her idea of an ideal man. They will follow you. So that's just my 2 cents on it. I know a lot of guys don't really think like that, but just because she's independent doesn't mean she's a bad woman. She was just necessarily dealt a bad hand or been sold a lie for so many years.
Absolutely. You know, I do have that topic pretty much with every single one of my clients because I'm
Mm-hmm.
preparing guys for marriage, which includes dating,
Yeah.
of course. And I
Mm-hmm.
do have, like earlier, I said, no, I don't focus so much on the dating part. Right now, I do actually focus very heavily on it because, again,
Mm-hmm.
the main purpose is to prepare men for marriage. And the
For
topic
sure.
that always arises, the topic which I say to every single guy is that, listen, probably every single woman that you date out there is going to have some feminist tendencies,
Yeah. Right.
because that's just what it is, right? But
Mm-hmm.
tendencies doesn't mean, okay, like you said, okay, no, I don't want to deal with her, they're only bad women. Like you said, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
women are quickly going to just throw it away.
Yep. Unless she has like blue hair, like 50 piercings on her face, and you know, like 30 pounds overweight, then maybe she's too far gone. But most women are not like that. They're not like hardcore feminists. They're actually just they kind of follow the narrative just because it sounds good, and they don't want to be, they don't want to be shamed because other women would be like, "What? You don't support women? You're not feminine?" Like they will shame each other for not being in that way of thinking. So some of them are just afraid, or they just don't know another way.
That's a wonderful topic that you brought up, that
Mm-hmm.
women will so often shame other women because they pursue a traditional lifestyle. Like,
Hundred
the
percent.
most hate a traditional woman gets is from so-called feminists that are
Yeah.
all for women having free choice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Right.
interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's like I thought you were supporting all women. Well, if a woman wants a traditional life and you think that that's disempowering, how is that supporting women? You just support them when it fits your narrative. not when it fits their lifestyle. It's pretty interesting because I think I've noticed that too, where women are like, they want the traditional lifestyle, they want a family, they want kids, and they call themselves a feminist, and other feminists are like, what, how could you, blah blah blah. It's like I've seen the comments online. It's like, how are you not supporting her? She's still a woman, she's just living a different lifestyle than you. And it's just they just don't support that. And it's interesting how that seems to be a trigger point.
You know what they're gonna say? Oh, he deceived you. You don't really like that.
Right. Of course. Yep. Usually the ones that say that are projecting because they know that they have been misled, or maybe they, anytime you accuse someone of something that you're doing or something that happened to you, that's just textbook projection. So like that's kind of how I look at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Well, we definitely hit a lot of different topics. We hit a lot of different angles, I think, towards like relationships, feminism. We got a little bit into some politics, or just ways of being, I would say, just value systems. Which is dope because I think it's a cool way for guys to just kind of hear our way of thinking, our point of view. Is there anything that you feel like you'd want to close out on, or just kind of sum up before we end things?
There's something on my mind when we're talking
Hmm.
about feminism that I do believe will help a lot of
Yeah.
men to understand female nature.
Right.
I'm a traditional Christian. I do believe in Christ. I do believe in the Bible, and I always teach men some lessons out of the Bible. And I always say, look,
Hmm.
listen, okay, maybe you're not a Christian, but consume it and take it as input, because some of that, or actually most of that stuff, is super good. Even if you don't
Hmm.
believe in Christ, just take it as input,
Yeah.
because you will learn so much from it. And
Hmm.
when we talk about feminism and saying, okay, women have been deceived, that's the perfect example of Eden and the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve.
Hmm. True.
I always say that feminism is the modern serpent. Women got deceived once again,
Yeah.
and that is why it's our responsibility to show them the way and to lead them out. So once again, we said this a couple of times: if you meet a woman who has feminist tendencies, know that women are the easier deceived sex,
Hmm.
and lead her.
Yeah. Exactly. No, that's 100% well said. I saw this one post on Instagram the other day that said, I think these women are resharing it and reposting it. They said, I tried shoveling my driveway from snow, or I tried raking leaves, something like that. I think the post said I tried shoveling my driveway, and then in that moment I realized we need men. I was like, yeah, that's funny because try being a man, try doing the things that we do, and then say you're a feminist. So it's like, yeah, that's that's all I'll say about feminism. But that I just thought that was funny. Um,
Perfect.
but yeah, man, where could people find you? I know you said at the beginning. What are some links? I know you're on Instagram. Where else can people find you?
Pretty much everywhere. I'm on Twitter,
Mhm.
TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Just type in holistic manhood and you will find me on every
Mhm.
social media channel.
Sweet. Sounds good. And as always, I'll leave his links down below. My links are down below. If you wanted to look into my stuff, you know where to find me. If you want to work with me personally, I have my coaching program. Link is down below if you want to apply for that. I know Manuel does some coaching as well. Um, but that's pretty much it, guys. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. And if you want to see some more topics like this, or other guests that I'll bring on, let me know what kind of topics you want to see. What are some things that you want to see addressed? And especially when it comes to masculinity, female dynamics, and things like that, let me know, because it can be a very crowded space. Um, and it's good to get input. So that's it, guys. We're going to peace out, and we'll catch y'all in the next podcast. Deuces.